Welcome to the unsettling tale of Angel Maturino Resendiz, a man whose life's narrative is shrouded in mystery and infamy. Angel Maturino Resendiz, also known as the Railroad Killer, was a real-life serial killer who terrorized the United States and Mexico during the 1990s. One of his most infamous crimes was the murder of Dr. Claudia Benton in December 1998. Dr. Claudia Benton was a respected physician living in the quiet town of Weimar, Texas. She had dedicated her life to helping others and was well loved by her community. On December 17, 1998, her life would take a horrifying turn. It was a chilly evening when Angel Maturino Resendiz, a drifter and a dangerous serial killer, arrived in Weimar. He had been evading the authorities for years, using the railroad tracks to travel across the country unnoticed. Resendiz's disheveled appearance and transient lifestyle allowed him to blend in and go unnoticed in most places he visited. That fateful night, Resendiz found himself in Weimar, drawn by the allure of the town's quiet streets and seemingly innocent surroundings. He had a list of victims in his mind, and Claudia Benton's name was on it. Though he had no personal connection to her, Resendiz's modus operandi was brutal. He would break into homes, often using a railroad spike or a similar tool to gain access. Claudia Benton's home was no exception. He forced his way inside and confronted the terrified doctor. Resendiz was a tall, imposing figure, and his eyes were void of any empathy. Claudia Benton, aware of the danger she faced, tried to reason with her intruder, begging for her life. But Resendiz was devoid of any compassion, driven by dark forces within him. He overpowered her, bound her with rope, and subjected her to a terrifying ordeal. He demanded money and valuables, but what he truly wanted was power and control. After hours of torment, Resendiz decided to silence his victim permanently. He took a heavy piece of metal and struck Claudia Benton with brutal force, ending her life. Her once tranquil home had turned into a scene of unimaginable horror. As Resendiz left the scene, he left behind a shattered community and a trail of fear. It would take weeks before the authorities could link this crime to the railroad killer who had left a similar trail of death and destruction across multiple states. Angel Maturino Resendiz was eventually captured and brought to justice, facing the consequences of his heinous crimes. His capture marked the end of a terrifying reign of terror that had haunted the country for years. Angel Maturino Resendiz grew up in a troubled environment. His family was marked by poverty and instability, and he experienced a tumultuous childhood. It is believed that he had a difficult relationship with his father, which may have contributed to his troubled life. His early life was characterized by behavioral problems, and he struggled with mental health issues from an early age. Resendiz's criminal record began at a young age. His first known brush with the law was in Mexico, where he was arrested for theft. He subsequently spent time in prison, and it was there that he allegedly became involved in Satanism and developed a fascination with the occult. This dark interest would later become a recurring theme in his life. In the early 1980s, Resendiz crossed the border into the United States and settled in California. His life in the United States was marked by homelessness, transient living, and criminal activities. He was in and out of prisons, primarily for property crimes, burglary, and assault. His violent tendencies escalated over the years, foreshadowing his transformation into a serial killer. Resendiz's reign of terror began in the mid-1990s when he adopted a nomadic lifestyle, using the extensive railway system in the United States to travel from town to town unnoticed. His modus operandi involved breaking into homes near train tracks, committing heinous acts of violence, and then disappearing before law enforcement could apprehend him. The exact number of Resendiz's victims remains uncertain, but he is believed to have been responsible for at least 15 murders across multiple states, including Texas, Illinois, Kentucky, and Florida. His brutal attacks often involved the use of blunt objects or tools, leaving behind a trail of gruesome crime scenes in terrified communities. Angel Maturino Resendiz, the railroad killer, was a complex and notorious figure in the realm of serial killers. Are some interesting facts about him. While in prison in Mexico, Resendiz claimed to have experienced a religious transformation. He reportedly turned to Christianity and began preaching to fellow inmates. This transformation would later become a point of intrigue and debate among those who studied his life. Resendiz's cross-border criminal activities made him a subject of an international manhunt. His ability to evade authorities in both Mexico and the United States added to the mystique surrounding his criminal activities. Although he is commonly known as the Railroad Killer, Resendiz's preferred nickname was the Redeemer due to his religious conversion. This contrast between his violent actions and religious beliefs only added to the enigma of his persona. Resendiz's legal battles were numerous and complex. He was a fugitive for several years, which involved evading capture not only by law enforcement but also by bounty hunters. His legal defense was marked by attempts to plead insanity due to his troubled mental state. In an unusual turn of events, Resendiz voluntarily confessed to several of his murders while still on the run. He contacted a Houston Chronicle reporter, Skip Hollinsworth, and gave him detailed information about his crimes, leading to a high-profile interview and an eventual surrender to authorities. The execution of Angel Maturino Resendiz was not without controversy. Some argued that his history of mental health issues should have spared him from the death penalty. However, others contended that his heinous crimes warranted the ultimate punishment. Resendiz's last words before his execution in Texas were notably cryptic. He said, "I want to ask if it is in your heart to forgive me. You don't have to. I know I allowed the devil to rule my life. I just ask you to forgive me and ask the Lord to forgive me for allowing the devil to deceive me. I thank God for having patience for me. I don't deserve to cause you pain. You do not have to say anything, but I know you have been hurt. You have lost a loved one. I am sorry. I really am. You do not have to respond to that." Angel Maturino Resendiz's spree of terror came to an end in 1999 when he was apprehended in Texas. He was eventually captured, thanks to the efforts of law enforcement, and subsequently faced trial for his crimes. His capture and arrest marked the end of his dark journey. Resendiz was put on trial in 2000 and was found guilty of multiple murders. His defense team attempted to argue that he was not guilty by reason of insanity due to his troubled mental state, but the jury rejected this defense. In 2006, Angel Maturino Resendiz was sentenced to death, and he was executed by lethal injection in Texas on June 27, 2006. Angel Maturino Resendiz's life and crimes remain a chilling chapter in the annals of American criminal history. His troubled upbringing, descent into violence, and the reign of terror he imposed upon communities served as a grim reminder of the capacity for darkness within the human psyche. As we conclude this exploration into the life of Angel Maturino Resendiz, we bid farewell to the chilling chapters of his existence, hoping to shed light on the darkest corners of the human psyche.